In this lesson of the Photoshop section, we're going to learn about this tab right here called split toning. I'm using the Photoshop 1 file that we edited before with some exposure and basic adjustments, which I still have applied. What split toning does, which is sort of similar to HSL, is allowing you to edit a specific part of your photo using highlights or shadows and adjusting the hue and the saturation of that part of the photo. So for example, for the highlights, if I take this first hue slider and drag it around, nothing happens. But if I put it to, say, blue or like aqua, and then I increase the saturation, what happens is all of the highlights of the image become more saturated with this hue that I've selected. So now with the saturation all the way up, I can adjust the hue and you can really see what's happening. So I can get this really cool, interesting effect. Now the saturation doesn't necessarily desaturate and make it black and white. It's just adding how much saturation for this hue to the highlights. Skipping down to shadows, this allows us to add the same sort of color to just the shadows. So first let's move the saturation all the way up to 100 to start out. Now let's adjust the hue. So you can kind of come up with these kind of dual tone effects like this, where the darks or the shadows of your image are blue, but the highlights get this sort of pink magenta. You can adjust how this is balanced with this balance slider. Going to the left will sort of weight it to the shadows. Going to the right will weight your adjustments to what you've chosen in your highlights up here. So this is, again, just a creative way to make your photos more interesting. You don't have to go so crazy with the saturation though, which gives you a more subtle, maybe realistic or maybe not so unrealistic effect that still looks pretty good. You know, if we want this image to have that sort of menacing stare, make it a little scarier, maybe we want the shadows to be a little bit darker blue, and like we have it, the highlights, which is most of Sam's face, to be sort of that orange or red. Pretty scary, right? Awesome. So this is the split toning tab. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, play around with it, and I'd love to see any image you come up with it. So feel free to post them to the class or tag us on social media with your photo posts, and we'll check them out.